You have arrived at the Omniverse.
Hopefully my headphones do not die. I don't think they're going to.
What are you saying? They're not corded?
Nope.
So. Alright. First one's up is Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. What do you think?
I mean, she's definitely high tier. And did we say if we were rating these on difficulty and fun of the boss fight, or are we doing just like overall the feel of it?
Let's see. Like mechanics. Let's go with mechanics, difficulty, fun. Like I say, with that said, Renala has to be like a higher tier, maybe BA.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say A tier. Like she's not difficult at all. It's probably one of the easier fights in the game, but like it's just so much fun.
It's got so much different stuff going on other than just killing.
And I think everybody had the first time where like when you beat the first stage of it, you're like, oh, that was really easy. Like, what was that? Mm-hmm. But also the whole time you were sitting there kind of like, what is going on? Because there's these like legless children like things crawling at you on the floor. And they're all throwing stuff at you. But like visually, it's probably the most visually striking fight for most of the game, if not in the entire game. But it is so easy that I think that it has to lose some points for that. Like it is just, I don't know. It's not like a bad thing, but it is at the same time because of the game that it's in. It is just such an easy fight. Yeah. Like the only time you really ever lose to this fight is if you just hands stop working when she fires the laser at you.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I mean, it's definitely one of the most memorable fights of the game.
Cool. Yeah. Godric the Grafted. When is Godric the Grafted?
I mean, it's a B or A. It's so significant the first time because it's like the first like real boss. Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, I would almost have to put it below Morgott because I'm saying the name right, the first one. Morgott
or Margit,
Margit the Fellowman, Margit the Fellowman, the first one that you fight. Yeah. Because I think like Margit, especially when the game first released, was just like so famous for like literally being this like the literal like plateau for a lot of players that were like coming into the Souls series for the first time, or even like returning players. I mean, Margit like fed me my front teeth like a few times before I got that fight down. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that one is like the first like hill that you have to get over as Margit. But then I think when you get to Godric, like his castle up to him was so much, I felt like harder than the actual boss fight was. Mm-hmm. If you are coming into the series for the first time. Obviously there were some returning veterans that I am friends with that just ran through the game, but I would say as far as like feel for it's pretty high, especially when you get him, when he does his phase change and he literally just like puts a dragon head on his arm and starts spitting fire at you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was, I feel like, the time when you do that, the game really feels like it opens up, like after you beat him. So it was a very important fight. But so I'd put it like B or A, because it is hard, but it's not like he has a very predictable pattern, a very predictable moveset that you kind of learn easily.
Yeah.
But it is a very it was a very fun fight. It was one I looked forward to helping people with a lot, like after I'd done it, because I had a lot of fun doing it. But it wasn't one that was just like I had to like turn the game off for a few days and be like, what do you want from me? like a few of them later on were.
Next up is Commander Neal. I think I would put him probably C tier.
Yeah. That's the one that's on top of the ice fortress in the snowy lands, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm trying to use the game specific names. The snowy lands, the ice fortress, the chilly area. Yeah, I'm trying to use like game specific names to show you how much I remember about this.
Though I think I died to this one a lot too, though.
he was very hard, but he feels like a very much like just a sub boss. Like there was nothing really grandiose about it. He's very cool, and his weapon was cool, and the fight was. The fight itself was a pain. But and I think the only reason I even got through it like in 2 tries is because I had watched somebody else do it first, which is not fair. But it feels like just a very much. He feels just like your stereotypical like dungeon boss. There was nothing really like grand about it, other than his character being very cool and like his ice effects being cool. Now, as far as difficulty, I think difficulty aside, it's very high marks because this fight is legitimately not fair.
Yeah.
He starts with like 2 of those like knights with him, and he's constantly giving you the frostbite effect. But in the end, it's not like it's not a mechanically hard fight. It's just he's not fair.
Same goes for Loretta. Also, probably a C or D tier for me. A very easy fight once you get to her. I think I probably only died across all my runs. Died probably twice to her.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm trying to think if I would probably say D or C. I don't know if Actually, I don't think I've ever died in that fight.
No. Don't let the arrows catch you.
Right, and I think that was just by that point that you got to where you just kind of learned all that stuff like the hard way, really.
And
and honestly, like, I'm trying to think. Like, I know there's the one later on that's in like the Halleck tree, which is almost like Loretta, but it's like on steroids.
Right.
And that one was fun too. But I think by the time like of the bosses on horseback, Loretta was the least memorable and least hard one for me. It was cool. It was a cool area. The boss area is really cool with the big pool in the center, and it's like in the Three Sisters area. But yeah, the fight itself was just dodge the arrows, win, easy life.
Okay. Yeah.
Everyone doing a no health mage build is like, yeah, but if you get hit by it. But I played meat shield builds all of my runs so far, so.
Right. Let's move on to Red Wolf of Radagon. Cool fight, like really cool moves.
Very
difficulty,
cool boss.
Not so much. Still have to pay attention.
No, I got him first try. Not even knowing it was coming. Very cool fight. Very cool boss design. And one that you see later on, eventually they just become random enemies, like in the.
I feel he's more dangerous out in the open world than in the building, though. For sure.
I will say.
Yeah.
I will say he can be hard. I had a few friends that one particularly, I'm not going to name them, but they were stuck on this boss for literally ever. It was just one of those things where for whatever reason, this boss just had their number. Kind of like when you and I were playing Hollow Knight and you first tried a few bosses that I literally wanted to break my controller over, and they weren't really that hard, but for some reason I just couldn't overcome it. But yeah, I would say like high marks for being a cool boss with cool design, but it wasn't hard, and it did kind of feel like one of those like just stereotypical video game tropes where it's like, okay, well, you're halfway through this dungeon, so beat this and you get a checkpoint, rather than it being something that was, which is not, it's not bad. Like I'm not saying as a detractor, Elden Ring's dungeon design was spectacular, but it did kind of feel like just that run through the motions of you've gone this far, now it's time for you to have like a little sub boss to get a checkpoint, and then you can move on to the real thing. But it was very cool. So I would say, yeah, definitely see. I don't think it would go any lower than that. I don't know. It's going to be hard because I don't feel there's any objectively just bad bosses in Elden Ring. Now, other people might disagree, and as we go, I might think of some. There's only one right now that I know I just want to put bottom tier just because it felt like, why? But no, I would definitely say C tier because it is very cool. A very cool boss, but very easy.
I'm looking at a lot of these, and a lot of these I see are just like C tier in comparison to a lot of the other ones.
And I have to remember that we are doing like difficulty rather than just like, was this boss boring?
Yeah.
But yeah.
kind of like doing a whole array of categories to decide whether or not they're.
I mean, if we're just doing based on difficulty, I might even put the Red Wolf of Radagon down in D tier.
Yeah. But
he was cool, so we got to give him some marks for that. But yeah, maybe D tier. Maybe because I'm thinking about it. Yeah, because I mean, I don't think he's
easily forgotten too. Like, after.
Yeah, maybe Loretta needs to be D tier as well.
You think so?
Yeah. I'm just thinking if we're doing with difficulty being just such a firm factor in it, they weren't hard, like at all.
Yeah, another metric would be how impactful the fights may be to you. Like, do you really remember the fight?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd maybe put Red Wolf if of rememberability. I'd put Red Wolf over Loretta then, just because it's a freaking wolf, man.
Yeah, like, let's see.
No, I'm saying like in D tier, but in front of Loretta.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess we can do like
if we're going to order them in the tiers, which I always do, because I'm that type A person.
Right. Godskin Apostle?
Godskin Apostle. Just throw it in the trash can right now. Terrible boss. I hated this thing. Horrible.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm kidding. This boss, I just hated all the Godskin ones because they freaking were so ridiculously hard every time you'd find them.
Yeah,
and
but that's
I don't
where
think
it would get you in a higher tier for that, like just difficulty alone, especially Godskin Duo.
Now Godskin Apostle was the one that was
yeah, that one wasn't hard. Like
that was the one that was in the Windmill Village, right?
Yes, and
okay,
it wasn't that. Like I guess
no, I got that one. I got that one the first time. Like I first tried that one, but
very easy
because his gimmicks were kind of wasted because you weren't trapped inside of a building like you were against Godskin Noble or Godskin Duo. So I would probably put him C tier. He had the ability to just like wreck your day, but in the end, he did that like where he would jump at you swinging from a long distance, but again you were in just an open area, so it was kind of like he was more predictable I think than the other ones, whereas I think Godskin Noble was predictable, but the problem with it is you were trapped by the freaking church pews and pillars, and
there were a couple of
just
mechanics
the fact that he was just goddamn nightmare. But Godskin Apostle I would put lower than the other one, so we're fine. The Godskin fights just became such a bane on me. Yeah, I'd put him E tier.
Yeah, like fun factor, for him.
Yeah.
Who's Elamir of the Briar? Who's that?
Old Elmer Glue. I remember that old boy. He's an optional boss.
Yeah, I've never fought him.
He's the bell-bearing hunter.
Maybe I fought him.
Yeah, no. I don't know. Like, it's weird. I
forget about him, so it's like,
He was oddly hard as crap. But it's just an optional boss. It wasn't that memorable. It was just part of the bell-bearing hunter like side quest things. But it was hard. So. But he's not hard. He punishes mistakes really hard.
Right.
Because he hits like a truck. So I'd maybe put him D or C. Like he's probably, I don't think he was as hard as Commander Nile, but he was up there. Yeah. Because he had, the first time I encountered him, I mean, he just.
If he's got the difficulty like Niall does, then sure.
Yeah. I'd say, but he's not. I mean, he's just an optional boss. Like, there's nothing memorable about him because he's just an optional piece something you didn't have to do. Now, I'm pretty sure most people did because the belt bearings were so important later on in the game, especially when trying to upgrade weapons and getting all those. So most people had started the belt bearing quest, but there were a few of them where to find the belt bearing hunter, you had to rest at certain sites of grace at certain times of day. So if people weren't like actively trying to figure that out, they probably didn't know that's what you were supposed to do.
Right. Huh. Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. I want to say S tier just because.
S tier on feeling, but yes. Again, like that's why I think we've shoehorned ourselves here because. Difficulty wise, that fight is not hard at all as long as Omni you remember that you're supposed to use the weapon that it gives you. Now That being said, this is one of the coolest fights in the entire game.
S tier for just for coolness, and story behind it too. You know, that's another
difficulty if you don't know to use the freaking weapon that for some reason the game is just like, hey, here's a cool weapon in the boss area that's never happened before.
Hey, I just thought it was a pile of bones somewhere just there.
You fought him on stream too, which was the best part. And I'm sitting there like in the chat, like in all caps, yelling at you like, the spear, the spear. I do think that his difficulty the first time around, or if you don't know a few things, is higher than on subsequent runs. Or a lot of people didn't know you get the weapon, so you can leave the area with it. If you leave the area and upgrade the weapon at all, this fight just becomes stupid. Because even upgrading it, even though you can't use the powers of it outside the boss area, upgrading it outside actually affects the damage of it inside with its special ability. So if you upgrade it, come back, you'll just wipe the floor with them. Now, as far as like memorable, like I said, this is one of the most memorable, coolest fights in the entire game, if not the coolest fight in the entire game. It's not, I know which one I'm going to say for mine. I'm not going to ruin it now. I know which fight in the game is my all-time favorite. But as far as just how big it feels, and it's definitely S tier. It's not S tier as far as difficulty, but it gets such high marks for just being a cool boss, a cool, fun fight. I spent hours just helping people do this fight just because I wanted to do it again.
Right. Wow.
It was kind of cool when you had 3 or 4 people in there, like all of you doing the spear beam was really funny. But yeah, definitely one of the, if not the coolest fight in the game.
All right, next up is Fire Giant. I want to say it's a higher. It's one of the higher tiers, B, A, or S, just because
difficulty is a 0. This was the easiest fight in the game. I'm just kidding.
It shuts down a couple of people, from what I've heard, but not me.
No.
After a certain part where like you damage its foot and injure it, and it starts staggering because you keep on wailing at it.
I would say I think this boss killed people with its first move more than any other boss in the game, where it throws the snow up and most people didn't know like you needed to dodge that.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing at myself here at all. Me.
You get past a certain point, it becomes easier, and you just can't be intimidated by it. But still,
yeah,
the way that boss looks,
very, very hard. I mean, high difficulty. I know this boss literally made people want to quit the game.
At least B tier for me.
Oh, I think this one's A or higher.
Really? I would say
I think I would think importance for story has got to be A to S. I think how big the boss arena is. I mean, when you come into it and you can barely see him in the distance, and you're like, what? Like, he's all the way over there. And then like when you get to him, just how big he is. The fight, I mean, like difficulty's got to get high marks. It's one of the hardest bosses in the game. I don't think many people would disagree there. Whether I even got through it, it didn't take me as long as other friends that I was playing the game alongside with. But even then, like, I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat like the whole time. You just never feel safe, even when you get past first ones. Now, I will say he is hardest until you break. Like once you realize you can break his leg and stuff, things get easier. But I just think like the grandiose scale, and I've said that word a ton already, but just the scale of it is so big, and the importance of it. I mean, like when you get done fighting this thing, spoilers aside, like what happens next is like one of the most important events of the game. So I mean, story wise, it's got to be up there. So now, was it as cool of a fight as Renala? Probably not. Renala is still one of the coolest boss fights for me, and I may have to argue that she should be S tier, but we'll do that at the end. But it definitely A or S. I don't think you could drop Fire Giant any lower than that.
Right.
He's a cool fight. It's huge. It's the biggest boss arena I think of any game I've ever played.
Yeah.
He's up there.
Definitely an iconic one that stands out and you remember. Next up is Valiant Gargoyles. These ones gave me a hard time my first run through. Next, the second playthrough and the one after that, they were nothing. But
Black Blade, the black whatever, the one that's outside of the Bestial Clergy's place was pretty rough. I would put them D or C. They're cool. They're but they are just kind of like world bosses. There's nothing ultimately that important about them. They have to lose points because until you're ready to fight them, they freaking annoy the crap out of you.
Out of difficulty, I would not put them in D. I'd put them in C just because they are kind of hard at the start.
Yeah, they're very hard. Like your first, I'm rating these kind of on first playthrough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
same.
so for your first playthrough, these things are a nightmare. I would say in your first playthrough, at the time that you meet them, you've not seen anything as hard as the Black Blade one, and I think that's its name. I'm sorry, I keep blanking on their names. I'm gonna think about it in a second. As soon as we're done doing this, I'm gonna be like, that's its name. But yeah, when the first time you encounter them, they just don't care about anything you've done in the game up to this point at all. And yeah, I definitely say C on difficulty alone. There's just nothing ultimately that important about them. Like lore wise, there is, but as far as like, there's no cool like cinematic scenes or anything. Surprise factor is a 10 out of 10 because the first time you leave the bestial clergyman's like place and it just thing drops down and kills you, you're like, oh, that's cool. Thanks.
Okay, next up is Mimic Tier. I want to say that's just like either a D or E. Just difficulty easy. It's not really anything flashy. It's just you against you.
Well, and unfortunately, to its detriment of cool design from the devs, is by the time most people encountered this, the secret had already gotten out of a fun way to cheese this fight.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, D or E for me. There's nothing very important about it. It's like it's the Shadow Temple fight or the Water Temple fight from Zelda, where you have to fight yourself again, like just done over and over and over. Almost everyone has to have where you fight you. It was very cool from the dev standpoint that it is you 100% with whatever you had equipped on you. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That's how you cheese the fight.
Yes, and that's why it's got D instead of E.
Right. But even then, like, I think the first time I fought it, I didn't even worry about it because I had rivers of blood and was just like, oh, I'll hit you first.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an easy fight. It's just kind of like more hilarious, and it does give you the mimic tier item, I believe, is where you get that to use, which was cool, or summons or whatever that people used. I don't know. I didn't use a whole lot of Ash summons for most of the game.
Right.
I wasn't a huge fan of them as far as for boss fights. I just kind of wanted to just me versus the boss, but it was cool. Gave you a cool item, but it was mostly just kind of like it felt more like just a quest fulfillment to get that item rather than like, oh, go beat this huge boss, yada yada.
Okay. Well, Godskin Noble though, I want to put it
Trash
D tier.
can, terrible boss. Just throw him out. I hate this thing.
I have to put him at D tier because he does have that. It was fun, like overcoming that that challenge and being able to and using some of the environment to stay away from his role and stuff like that.
I mean, he is, but he definitely, like, again, that we've said about some of them, he just feels kind of like more of a, you're at the halfway point, beat this, and you get you get your checkpoint type of thing rather than like something really important. Now, as far as like utter nightmare fuel to look at, yes, high tier, high marks, but eventually, as you play, these things just kind of become like, I'm pretty sure Godskin Noble shows up again, just on a bridge. Like you just have to fight him again. So yeah, I would definitely put D. He's not as bad as Apostle, but he's not, there's nothing I would put him higher than in C tier.
Okay. Yeah. Godfrey, first Elden Lord. Definitely A.
You mean Horalu?
Yo. Why does it say Godfrey in the front? Horalu.
Because he starts as Godfrey and then becomes Horalu when he takes his partner off.
Yeah.
This is ARS. I mean, what can we say? Like, this fight was hard.
First Elden Lord.
This fight is hard. He's cool.
Good mechanics.
We were mad we had to kill him because he's just an ultimately cool character. He has one of the coolest mid-fight scenes where he rips the lion. I can't think of the lion's name. His the thing that she put on him to keep him from being feral. What was that thing? What was the name of it? Why can't I remember? Yeah, but yeah, when he rips that thing off and like it literally is like bloody, like he's ripping a part of himself apart, was one of the coolest like mid-fight scenes in the game. He is one of the harder bosses when you get to him. I mean, he took me a good amount of tries. He destroyed me. I'd probably put him top of A tier, if not an S tier. He's probably S in my mind, though. That's my opinion. If you want to argue against that,
hold
you
him at
can.
A for now, and then when we come back, we can revise that. Also, next up
I will say, what's up?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, if we were to split it in two, I would say the first part of the Godfrey fight is easy, and then when he becomes Horalu is when he kept just like fisting me every time. He just does so much damage, like just obscene amounts of damage, and he does a lot of global effects that were cool. But yeah, like you were saying, the mechanics of it's very cool. He's very hard, so I'm definitely ARS on him.
Crucible Knight. Remember this one? It's definitely like a D tier though, just because.
Dear E. They're cool. They're very cool lore wise when you know what the Crucible Knights were, and that they were there for like, you know, the Crucible Knights were for like the Halig tree and everything. But like, they're not hard. They might like scrub stomp you a few times, like when you first find them, because they're just, if I remember, like the Crucible Knights just kind of like wandering around.
Mm-hmm.
But because I think one of them's in the capital city, and I know another one's like in an Undercroft area. And they're very cool. Like they're at least the one that's in the bottom area. Like design wise, their armor looks amazing, and they're very cool. But they're not hard. They kind of feel like by the time you get towards end game, they just feel like some of the harder like normal enemies that you would fight. But lore wise, I would say they're very high tier because they're very important lore wise. But just there's nothing that cool about them compared to other things.
Right.
Nah, I'd put them above Mimic tier and D tier. Margit the Felloman.
Mm-hmm.
Difficulty S tier.
Well,
this was the absolute scrub stomper boss of the game.
It's memorable to, like, everybody knows this fight, obviously. Your big first one.
His voice lines are so quotable, it's so memorable. He's the first time that, like, other than the one guy that gives you the ticket to go to Moog's like place, he's the first one where I felt like he was just like, "Hey, Tarnished, you stupid bastard." Like, but I mean, like we were saying earlier, this was the boss that on everybody on their first time through, especially if this was the first Souls game you picked up, and this was probably a lot of people's first Souls game, other than like for the same reason I think Bloodborne was too, is just kind of like such a fun departure from the series. But there were so many people that were like, "Oh man, this game's great. I'm running around, and yeah, I've died a few times, but like I'm overcoming everything because like I'm just running around. I'm having fun exploring. Like it's so open world, I can do whatever I want." And then they came to this guy, and it was like the giant like hill to overcome to really like unlock the game. And other than maybe if you tried to take on the Tree Sentinel like way too early on your first playthrough, this was the first time the game had really been like had really shown you something that wasn't fair. Now, if you were returning from other Souls games, this is when the game finally felt like, oh, here's the Souls boss. Like I found a real Souls boss, like because he did way too much damage, he moved too fast, you know. But just like any other Souls boss, once you like on subsequent playthroughs, like this guy was just like a hiccup, like you didn't worry about it at all. But
right.
I definitely have to give it A or S for just being the absolute just. Like I said, I hate to use the word, but Scrub Stomper is exactly what this thing was. I even think my first time through, I kind of like cheesed him out a little bit to get through the fight.
So we're saying,
and I had played other Souls games.
Saying S tier then, or keeping it A?
I mean, he's definitely not harder than Godfrey. He's harder. I think he's harder than Renala, but he's not harder than Fire Giant. But he's not as cool as Renala. Or Fire Giant. So it's just like, I don't know. I'd say he's in A. Where he's ordered in A, I'm not too worried about it.
Every new game, plus I run straight to him to kill him, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like once you've played it and you're so used to his moveset, And by the time you've beaten the game, his moveset is just like common enemies are doing what he's doing. You can do it. But I have to say, he has to get high marks for just how many people he made want to quit the game.
Good thing he's in A tier. Next up is Radon. Radon.
Radon is an S tier fight. Come on.
Yes.
This fight is so much fun. There's a freaking festival about it.
What it does after you fight him too changes the world.
Right. All the coolest characters that you've met in the game show up to help you in this fight. It's a cool mini game inside of a cool boss fight. He launches himself into space and flies back down at you.
Yeah.
This fight was so bad they had to nerf it, and then they buffed it again because after they nerfed it, it was like the easiest thing in the world. This is the part, and I also think when you found out somebody had started playing this game, and let's say you had already beaten it, or you knew they were new to the series, this is kind of like we're like, hey, have you fought Radon yet? And you would kind of gauge it on that, like, oh man, just wait. Like, this is how you tell, like, oh man, you're gonna have so much fun in this. And this was another one, like with Rykard, that like I just went back and did this fight so much. Loved this freaking fight.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was just like, and again, like I got him, I think, in 2 tries. So like it was difficult for a lot of people, but like I guess I caught on to like just reawakening the people and got a little lucky. Because also the weapon I was using at the time when I first fought him caused Scarlet Rot, which I didn't know he was very susceptible to, which is funny because in the lore that's 100% he should be susceptible to it. But so I didn't have as much trouble with him as some did, but like his difficulty is very high. He can punish mistakes very quickly, even with only like a pixel of health left. But yeah, he's S tier just based on that is just a cool fight.
Yeah, definitely. The next ones are like Fortisax and Placidusax. Both the dragons. What do you think for both of them?
These are B or A tier. These are very cool fights, very cool enemies, high difficulty.
Definitely.
Very cool area.
Probably Placidusax like way ahead because
I'd put him at A tier.
Yeah.
That fight's amazing.
Yeah, I forgot that he like mirrors himself and like you have to figure out like which one's him or something like that, or when he like goes through the clouds or something, you don't really know where he's coming from.
Right, and just the fact that like finding him, you had to like go to sleep on a random area.
Yeah.
Was just cool. Like everything about that fight's cool. That's one of the coolest areas of the game when you get there. That area, it's one of the hardest areas of the game to like just walk through. But yeah, that's a cool fight. I'd definitely put him A tier.
Alright, Morgott, the Omen King. I'm gonna say B, but like I think when I went through, I got him first try, maybe first or second try.
Yeah,
I can't remember on the first one.
He was hard, but he wasn't. He was hard, but the moveset wasn't something you hadn't seen before. I mean, lore-wise, it's probably one of the most important fights of the game, but it's not hard. It's not. It doesn't feel as cool as some of the ones in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel as cool as the fight in front of it that takes place in the exact same location. Horaloo. Yeah, I'd say it definitely felt more of a story-driven, like, okay, well, you have to do this because this is the one that's standing in front of you getting inside the tree, rather than it being like a difficulty pinnacle or anything. So I'd say B tier is fine because he is cool. He's a very cool character, very cool boss, but there wasn't anything overly hard about it.
Right. Here's Moog. Moog is also like
here's the thing.
B tier at least for me.
Moog for coolness factor is S tier, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Moog for difficulty factor, this fight is easy as hell.
Depends. Well, first play for me. No, you killed him first try, right?
I killed him first try.
It took me a couple
first try
tries
without taking a hit.
Gosh,
I don't. I didn't know why everyone was saying this.
I was
so
getting sprayed
hard.
with blood or whatever he was shooting at me at the start. And I was like, oh crap, I'm now
Yeah. Well, but the thing is my build at the time also was the one that like literally buffed my damage if there was blood loss going on.
yeah.
And I don't remember if there was something in the game at the time where like it didn't matter where the blood loss was happening. So because he was causing blood loss, it was like he was boosting my stuff is what it felt like. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's just how it felt.
I think that's
But
how
yeah,
it works though, to be honest.
I literally got this guy without any problem first try. That being said, it made a lot of people that I was playing the game with at the time very angry with me. Because I told them like, oh man, Moog's nothing. Like, because I didn't know. I wasn't.
Right.
I was at the time. The game had only been out for like a month maybe, and so I was like trying to stay offline. I was still trying to like discover new things. I wasn't trying to like go look up boss strategies or like ruin the game for me. So like, I didn't know that other people were having problems with this boss. So I was like telling like you and then other people that were playing it like, oh dude, Moog's so easy. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, I wouldn't even save before you go in there. Let me just put it that way. Like, maybe don't even heal. Like, you got it. And then somebody was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm on my like 30th try," and I was like, "Okay. I mean, to each their own." But yeah, no, very much. This is definitely an A tier fight. Like, no hands about it. He has, in my opinion, the coolest weapon in the game, which is basically like King Trident's trident from Little Mermaid if it would like spawn from hell itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everything about him is cool. There's also the weirdness factor of it afterward, which is very Souls-like, of the big egg behind him, and like, he's just cool. Like he's definitely A if not S. He's definitely S on coolness factor alone. But I mean, the fact that he's basically like, he's basically like a Minecraft creeper as far as difficulty. I mean, like, come on.
I mean, after the next new game pluses, yeah, very easy. Yeah, let's move on to Malekith. Very cool fight. Very cool boss to fight.
Okay. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is my favorite fight in the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
He is hard as hell. He is the coolest character, the bestial clergyman at the time. And then, well, I know you didn't have this as much, but if you're somebody who was like super just delving into all the lore, going through it, and eating up every little piece you can, his face change in this fight was the biggest aha moment of the game. To find out that the bestial clergyman was the Black Blade and who had taken the death rune into himself, and the reason why no one had destined death anymore, like that was the biggest thing for me. Like, it was so, like, I'm pretty sure I lost the first time getting that because I was like, oh, I was still doing the oh my god face when he was like, oh, scene's over, and started killing me. But yeah, no, this is definitely S tier. Like, in my opinion, this is the best boss fight in the game. It's like two completely different fights. Like, his moveset is so different. And I know it took me a few tries to get past the bestial clergyman, and then it took me even more times to beat him as Black Blade, Malekith the Black Blade.
Right.
So I mean, like, just everything about this fight is amazing. From a lore standpoint, it's S. From just the boss arena, it's an S. Like, moveset's S. There's no way. Like, I understand not everybody might feel that way, but to me, this is my favorite boss fight in the entire game.
I agree. Well, like, not favorite, but definitely S tier.
Mm-hmm.
As far as how their separate parts are and the coolness of it.
Yeah, when he pulls the huge blade out of his hand, you're like, oh god, I'm in danger.
Fia's champions.
E
or D. Yeah.
No, it's E. It's E. This fight's more of just an annoyance to
It's
finish.
annoying. Yes, I was about to say annoying.
Anything. That's it. There's nothing really more to say about their E. I don't think anyone's gonna argue us there.
Right. Well, let's move on. Radagon and Elden Beast together as one. I mean, it's Elden Beast. It's radic.
I would say I would say for difficulty, Radagon to me was S. And you and I have always laughed about this because he used a very straightforward hit you with a sword moveset. You know that I can't do that. For some reason, if there's not bullet hell involved or crazy blood raining from the sky, if they're just like, hey, square up, I'm going to fight you, I have trouble. I don't know why. We've always joked about it. I can't do it. Radagon literally just beat the shit out of me relentlessly for about 20 tries. I will say, so for him, for Radagon, I would say difficulty is very high. Other people might agree. But the fight is like so lore important.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, it doesn't feel as grand as some of the other ones. It's just kind of like you in the tree fighting him, everything like that. Now, Elden Beast was just kind of like a reward for getting past, like, hey, here, have fun beating the game. This is not hard at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, maybe some other people had trouble with Elden Beast, but to me, like I said, that kind of felt like you did it, buddy. Go get him. You know, like he had a few moves that like you might really hurt if you didn't dodge them correctly, but they were very like telegraphed, like you knew they were coming, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like I said, lore importance for the game, it's a very important fight because you learn that like, you know, this is like you're you know, destroying the thing inside the Elden, you know, the tree and all that, and this is Queen Marika and you know, all that. But like, I'd say A tier just based on that alone. But there wasn't anything. I don't know how to say it. There wasn't anything that spectacular about the fights. They're just kind of a boss fight. Like, they're gonna get high marks because of importance and difficulty, but it's just a boss fight. It's not one that I ever really wanted to go back and do again because it was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did a couple times because eventually it's the point it was the only place that I was allowed to, and I was trying to get I was trying to farm that item that turns on what am I talking about? The one that turns on the runes. I'm using all the descriptive terms here, but yeah. So no, I'd say A tier easy.
Mm. Okay. Next up, Godskin Duo.
First off, fuck this fight.
Yes, difficulty wise, has to be in B.
It's a B fight because it's hard. It's not fair. Is the whole point? It's not a fair fight. It's not supposed to be. It's not fair. It's not a cool fight though. It's just an annoying fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody thought to themselves after doing this, like, man, I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah, even on new games, it's like, am I gonna beat them first try, or do I have to relearn how to fight them again?
Oh man, and like you're like, okay, I've got it. I need to get one of them down and then like beat the other one first, and like right as you're trying to do that, the other one like comes back to life, and you're like,
yeah.
Always come on.
Like I was my first go through at it. I was trying to look on some wikis or something to figure out like how do we disable one so we can just focus on one.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are susceptible to every status effect, like sleep affects them and everything. I think it's like one of those like it took me so many times. By the time I did it, I don't think I got hit a whole lot. Like I had done it so many times. But yeah, it can't rank high. This is not a cool fight. It's just an annoying fight. I'm sorry.
But memorable, like everybody knows this.
It's very memorable because of how much everyone hated it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry if you're out there you're a Godskin fanboy, but no. You need to get help.
Yeah. Millennia. Yeah, let's just say
E-tier.
Trash.
E-tier, this fight's easy. Just there's nothing memorable here.
Like,
I mean, I don't think anybody took any time at all to beat this one. Come on. This is the easiest S tier on the list.
Yes.
She is the hardest boss in the game, bar none. She's not at all fair ever. She is the coolest. She's one of the coolest characters in the game. And yeah, no. This is like back in the day when you built a new computer and you benchmarked it against if it would run Crysis on high settings. You find out whether or not how good you are at this game by how easily you can beat Millennia. Like, and I mean, it's one of my favorite parts of you streaming ever, of me being in your audience, was when you were doing your mage build, and I'm literally in there arguing you down like, it doesn't matter, take the armor off, do it naked. She hits you once, you're dead. Your armor does nothing. That was one of my favorite moments of your stream ever because it was so funny and just like how close you were getting, and then she would finally do her like blade dance move and just completely wreck house.
At the very least, I got my spells right with the night versions of the Comet and Glintstone. So right.
This is definitely, if it's easily a lot of people's favorite boss fight of the game for all the right and wrong reasons at the same time. But yeah, no, that's come on. Easiest here.
We don't need to talk about it.
Right.
Regal Ancestor Spirit, D tier, forgettable, not like...
I'm actually going to argue with you here.
Really?
I will. You can put it wherever you like because as far as importance to the game, yes, it ranks low. This is one of my favorite fights in the game. I thought this thing was so cool, and you just come through all these like very like tribal-esque like enemies.
I can go higher just because like the visuals of the moveset.
Right, his moveset was awesome. It felt like the boss arena was really cool. Now, I think I'm biased because I'm a big Ghibli fan, and this reminded me so much of Princess Mononoke's like forest spirit. And so I'm definitely a little biased there. So maybe I'm trying to hearken to some of the other Ghibli stands out there to come on my side. But this was one of the most memorable fights of the game for me that wasn't a main flagship boss fight, because I just thought it was such a cool boss design, and the way he like teleported in and out, like he definitely felt like a regal ancestor spirit, as his name implies. So I'm fine with C tier. My own, stupid list, it doesn't make any sense. I would have him up there way higher just because I love this fight so much. But yeah, no, he's definitely a C tier.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Keep it there. Magma Worm Makar.
E tier.
Really?
When you asked me about this and I said there's one boss that I know is E tier, it's this one.
Why do you say this?
I thought this boss was just dumb.
Like easy.
He's easy. It just annoyed me when it came up, so maybe that's a lot of it. It's a giant lizard with a sword, which some might argue is very cool. It's very Dark Souls-like. It's a very Dark Souls fight. I will give it that. But it's just, I don't know.
Wait, where are the other bosses, like those other worms on there? They're not on here. Where you, like those very small corridor type rooms, and you just have this
They might not consider them. Right. We'll just put them all in there. And so for that, I can say putting them to D or C, because there were a few of them that popped up at very annoying times and were very cool. But at least that one, like most people beat Magma Worm while doing the skip of using the Grand Lift. When you could skip using the Grand Lift to get up to the plateau. That's when a lot of us encountered him for the first time. Or countered it, I should say. I don't want to assume to know its gender. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's not the dumb fight. It's maybe cooler than Godskin Apostle, other ones in there, but I don't know. I thought this fight was dumb.
Right.
I can hear the hate mail coming already because it's a freaking magma lizard with a sword in its mouth, but come on.
Yeah. Yeah. This next boss, however, I don't remember at all. Like
the Misbegotten. This was the one at the castle far south, when you're in the first area of the game. He at the bottom there's like water, and there's like a little like tower, and you go through the portal on it, and he's there. This is E tier This is a recycled boss from former Souls games. He gets recycled as a normal enemy throughout the game completely. This is E tier. I don't know anybody who didn't first try this one.
Yeah, now that you mention it, like
Just
very easy.
he's just a very recycled boss. There's nothing, and he's meant to be. Like, he's not supposed to be hard.
Oh, what's that? What about Akil? Or is that how you say it? Akil? Flying dragon. Akil. I don't remember this one either. Is that the one at the Don't tell me. Is that the one in the first area with the water? Is that the one? Where I can't.
Yeah, he's in Lingrave. Come on, buddy. You can remember him.
Yeah, okay, so I know.
You know, you walk by and he swoops in and he throws the fire everywhere. And killed most of us the first time by doing that because we didn't know it was coming. Yeah. He's C or B tier. He's very cool.
B.
He's the first time that you're like, what? You want me to go fight a dragon? Are you kidding me? First, there's a guy on horseback with a giant axe that's been killing me. Now there's a dragon. So he's a very cool fight, but it's very easy. Most people can beat it on horseback without having any levels in them at all. But he's very cool. Like, so I'd say C or B, because he's not as cool as the other dragons in the game. But for your first playthrough, it is one of the first times where you're like, "Oh, dragon, come on!"
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's move on to Sir Gideon.
Sir Gideon in Fear, the All-Knowing. This has to be A. He's been with you the whole game. Yeah. And now he's literally just like, you can't be an Elden Lord. You can't.
As easy as he is, but...
He's an easy fight, but difficulty, he's E tier. This fight is no... If you were somewhat near the level you were supposed to be for that area, you're fine. So maybe B, but I don't know. I feel like it sucks because like he's been with you the whole time. You've known about him for the whole game. You've talked to him so many times. He told you where things are, but so maybe B or A, but
it's like 50-50 for the A or B because easy.
If we were taking difficulty out of this, he'd be A or S, because it's just like he's been a friend the whole game and now you have to like kill him because it's literally down to like he wanted to become it and you have to become it and you burned the freaking tree. But difficulty is so like he's not meant to be hard for the story. But it is so easy, and they could have made him hard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's mentioned in the freaking beginning of the game, right before the loathsome dung eater.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So B or A, just based on coolness and that.
Oh yeah.
I'm fine with him there. I maybe think B, but I'm fine with him there.
Keep him there for a little bit. Astel.
Astel, this is one of the coolest looking bosses in the game. It's literally like a dragon and a dragonfly with a skeleton head.
At least.
He's not hard is the problem.
Then it would have to be A, because for Gideon's sake, in A, we have to put Astel there.
He's one of the coolest looking bosses in the entire game, and he's huge. And cool, and like the boss fight's fun and it feels cool, but it's so easy.
The hard part is the meteor storm. If you get through that, you're golden.
Yeah, you're fine. Dragon Skin Soldier.
Dragonkin.
Oh, Dragonkin. Sorry,
C.
This is the one that comes up in the middle of that lake area, right?
Right. Yes. It's not difficult.
This is an E or D tier.
Yeah, C or D. I'll give it a D. Like
I can see the last one left, and I'm just laughing about it.
Every time I look at it, I smile. I'm giggling.
For you, Falling Star Beast. This is an S tier. I mean, I can't. For you alone, I can't think of a harder boss in this game.
Yeah. It still gives me problems.
Yeah, I
But
know. This is a D or an E tier.
I mean, yes.
It's
Even
just
though
supposed to be.
it'll still give me
It's just
problems, but yeah.
it's just supposed to be like a world boss that's kind of fun to do, and you find him for the first time climbing up the ladder.
And you can skip
But
him if
yeah.
you want.
Oh, he's 100% optional. But I mean, why? I mean, you just kill him first try. Why would you ever skip him?
Yeah, rub it in.
No, I remember
Like
helping you with
3
this
hours of failing
I remember helping you with this one for the first time, and I was trying to tell you to I was trying to help you, and I forgot to look where I was, and he ended up knocking me off the mountain, and I was just like, "Screw you! You could do this by yourself then." But no, I mean, yeah, this is just a world enemy boss. There's nothing that cool about him.
Weapons bouncing off of him.
Yeah. I remember it too because the first time when you got to him, I was using Radagon swords, or not Radagon, but Radon swords, and so I was like, dude, no, my swords don't bounce off of them. This is an easy fight.
I switched to that weird hammer thing I was using to actually do anything significant to it.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
I think it's a solid list. The only ones that I would say I would just have such a hard time is like, and again, we prefaced this in the beginning. There are no bad bosses in this game, other than maybe the misbegotten Leonin, just because he's just a recycled Souls enemy. But like Renala could be an S tier easily. So I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not even gonna worry about order within the tiers. They're just that tier. Don't focus on ordering within the tiers. It's just they're an S tier, they're not, like, because clearly Melania is the
is in the front
yeah
here.
right. But so no, I think it's a good list.
Well, well,
yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said don't worry about it.
Yeah,
because there's just so many. Like, on another argument, most of the bosses in A could all be S too, maybe except for Astel.
Yeah.
And like, there's arguments for all of these being higher, except for Godskin Duo. Just needs to be trash can tier. And then again, if we just go based on purely difficulty, Falling Star Beast is the hardest boss in the game. So
yeah,
for you.
Yeah.
And
Gosh, I just want to boot up Elden Ring again and go straight to it and see, like, is it still
but it's
hard?
just like I was saying. It's just like I was saying. Like, I know you and a few other people that were just like, "Man, Radagon was a walk in the park, dude. This guy barely touched me," and I'm like, "Why? Why?"
Yeah, you just got to catch Radagon quick.
For some reason, if they are just a straight up sword fight, I'm like, "Well, this is gonna be bad." Like, he beat me more times than Melania did.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not defending it. And you know how I finally got through them? I had to just take a step back and get good, Had to get good.
All right, well, yeah. This tier list looks good from a couple of Elden Ring players. Put a few hours in. I don't know how many hours you put in yours, but let me check.
I'd have to go check. It was near 200.
How many did I put in?
And I still have the itch to boot it back up and play through it again.
Yeah.
I only did like New Game Plus like 2 or 3 times, and I never did a mage build, which I want to do.
Incoming expansion whenever that drops.
Oh yeah.
200 hours in.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's hard not to if you did everything, or even somewhere around everything. I think just the game was just too much fun just to aimlessly explore to not have somewhere around there.
An easy Souls game that, like, easy to come back to and play through a couple more times, just because you want to come back and get revenge on those bosses that kicked your ass the first playthrough, and you're like, oh yeah, look at what I got now.
That, and I just think, like, just the world itself was just so much fun to run around in, and like, story was great. The dungeon design was second to none at the time. I said it when it came out, and I think it really did kind of set the tone that all RPGs of this style have to follow, which is that we're not going to settle for just cookie cutter dungeons anymore. Like, there was so much varied dungeon design in this game that I think it really did set the bar very high.
I guess that's it for the tier then.
Yeah. Till next time.
Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. It helps me and it will help you when I post new videos. Catch you later.